Let's see if it goes live. Or if I need to. Oh, there it goes. Wow, it went live. I didn't even have to mess with it or anything. Cool. Yeah, cool. We're here. Everybody's here. We're good. Make sure y'all can hear me. Cool. Okay, we're about to go live on TikTok and then the show will begin. Yeah, that looks good. All right, boom. Okay, everybody. All right, we're live. Sorry, everybody, if you were watching on the YouTube broadcast. I know that was like a minute of not talking and getting things started, but we're gonna start now. I'm not waiting on people to join on TikTok. We're just gonna get the show going, and it's actually crap. I put daily life. I went live on the wrong thing, guys. I'm sorry. I wish you could see this TikTok user interface. It's not very friendly, even for people who have been doing it for a while. It's not very good. Unfortunately, as much as I would like it to be good. All right. Does it have politics as a? No, it sure doesn't. DIY, music, dance, chat, and interview. I'll just do chat and interview, I guess. That works. Okay. All right. It's going live. Are we live? We're live on TikTok now. Okay, cool. All right, guys. What's up? Sorry for my absence. Like I said, we were actually on vacation, so I was gone for a while. We had a good time. It was fun. But now we're back. We're back into the regular swing of things. We're going to just basically keep doing what we've been doing, and yeah. So anyway, let's get today's show started. Good morning, by the way, for everybody. I want to start with the Carmelo Anthony incident. Okay, everybody's been talking about this online. Whether you're for Carmelo Anthony or whether you're against what he did. Now, it sounds crazy to say that somebody would be rooting for him, but we do need to gather the details and the truth of everything that happened. Therefore, we have an accurate depiction of what actually happened, right? So, if we just start at the very top, let me make sure you guys can see this too. Over on the Tiki Talkies. Let me make sure you can see everything that you need to see. Yep. Here we go. All right. Oh, well, it's backwards for you guys. Let's fix that. I'm not sure why that's backwards, but rotate clockwise. Oh shit! I totally screwed that up. Flip horizontally, but now it's what? All right. So do I have to go in? I have to go in here and fix it for you guys, I guess. Flip horizontal. Okay, now you can read it, right? Yeah. All right, now you guys can read it. All right, cool. Sorry, that took way too long. And everybody watching on YouTube, I really apologize. But we're going to get it going now. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let's get the show on the road. So, 17-year-old accused of, we know, Austin Metcalf, 17, to unalive, is claiming self-defense and asked the court to lower his bond to $1 million. I'm not really concerned about that part, but what I am concerned about is the details of this situation. So, Carmelo Anthony's attorney, Derek Walpole, said that Anthony is claiming self-defense, and a lot of people online have been saying that it was self-defense. He confirmed he'll be requesting a bond hearing next week. Here's what we know according to reports. Okay, now this is what I'm really interested in. These are reports that attorneys are saying in court. Okay, a witness says Metcalf was sitting under his school's tent when Anthony approached. Okay, so Metcalf is the guy who was unalived. Okay, and Anthony is the one who did the unaliving. So let's start over. A witness says Metcalf was underneath his school's tent when Anthony approached. So he was underneath his own school's tent when Anthony approached. Now we don't know why Anthony approached. Maybe he knew them. Maybe he didn't. Maybe we don't know. Metcalf told Anthony to leave, so maybe they already knew each other. Maybe they, had some kind of experience with each other in the past. Anthony grabbed his bag and warned, "Touch me and see what happens." Um, no one knew Anthony had a weapon. Obviously, it's a track meet. Who would bring a weapon to a track meet that you're supposed to be involved in? Um, One witness says Metcalf touched Anthony. Okay, so that's one witness says Metcalf touched Anthony. Another says he grabbed him. Anthony immediately pulled a knife from his backpack and Metcalf in the chest. Okay, so look, if we're gonna take a backseat approach to this, we have to identify a few things, right? It seems like these people knew each other. It seems like these young teens knew each other and might have already had conflict with each other in the past for whatever reason. I don't understand why he would walk into his tent if he didn't already know the people that were underneath the tent or he had a reason to go over there. So he goes over there and Metcalf tells him, "No, we don't want you over here, bro. You got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. We don't, you know." And Anthony took offense to that. Now, we don't know. Then this is why I think probably there were things going on that we don't know about detail-wise between Metcalf and Anthony because um, why did it get so hostile so quickly? If all he did was tell him to leave, I mean, if I'm a kid in school and somebody tells me to leave, I'm at a track meet and they're underneath their tent and they tell me to leave, they don't want me to be there. I'm just gonna leave. But this tells me that they knew each other. There was something here. And so it escalates after he told him to leave. And we don't know if Anthony grabbed him or we don't know if he touched him. We don't know. But it says that apparently, and this is what a lot of people online are saying on Twitter. God, people are going crazy on Twitter over this. Is that apparently he put his hands on Anthony first. Therefore, everything that Anthony did was self defense. Now, look, guys, we can say this whole situation is wrong. We can say this and that about the other. We can say whatever we want about Anthony. We can say whatever we want about Metcalf. But at the end of the day, if you resolve your conflicts by pulling out a knife and unaliving somebody right into the chest, that's a problem. Not only is it a problem with you, it's a problem with your home life. It's a problem with everybody that's around you. It's a problem with your mentors. It's a problem with anybody who should have told you this isn't the way to live life, and ultimately you are the one now paying the price because um, you essentially wanted to stand your ground. You essentially had something you wanted to prove to Metcalf, apparently, and I guess you proved it. And now you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison. And people who are saying he's gonna get bailed out, they're trolls. Okay, they know he's not getting bailed out. They know he's gonna spend the rest of his life in prison. And if we want to say that Anthony is a victim, what I would say Anthony is a victim of is people who don't have his own self interest in mind, people who don't have his back, people who aren't telling him, "Hey, this isn't what you do when you have a disagreement with somebody. I know this is the neighborhood that we're from. I know this is what we do. You don't need to do this. You're a track athlete. You're this, you're that. You have a good GPA, whatever it is. You don't need to live this sort of life. You don't." And they both came from good homes, from what I understand, good families. Good meaning, well, somewhat well off, probably somewhat middle class is what I mean. I don't mean they were good people, because we don't know what kind of people are in this person's life. And it could come down to Anthony himself having a condition, a mental condition like anger issues or whatever the hell. And this is the point that it overspilled and took Metcalf's life. And now, unfortunately, he's going to have to spend the rest of his life in prison because of this. And this whole situation could have been avoided from the very beginning. It is just another case of, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've never been one, like, I remember when rock music was heavily criticized. I remember when Eminem was heavily criticized, right? Everybody talked about how bad Eminem is for the radio and for the airwaves and for kids to be listening to him. But I do believe that a lot of this music that we're hearing that comes onto the radio that gets popular, you take a look at Sexy Red. I mean, is she a role model for any young woman? I don't think so. It is confirmed that Austin did not lay a hand on Anthony until Anthony went in his bag. Okay. But so that's information that I would like to see. But the only problem is, Thumper, these are This is from Carmelo Anthony's attorney. Now, maybe Carmelo Anthony's attorney wanted to leave that detail out, in which, sure, I could see that, but I don't see it here in on this where it's talking. This is literally the points that the lawyers are making in the court case. So this is direct information that is being brought to the judge's attention. However, if it is confirmed that Austin did not lay a hand on Anthony until Anthony went in his bag, that would be good information. That would be useful information, because at that point you could say, I don't know if you could say self-defense over a bag, and I don't think anybody should have been unalived over a bag. Um, this whole situation, and what bothers me the most about the situation is the people who go online and they troll and they and they say these things that they know aren't true behind a screen that they know nobody will ever find out who they are. And for some reason, these people feel empowered to do this. It's weird. It's really weird behavior. And I think the left and the right do it. You know, you see somebody on the left fail miserably, and then you have the whole right going crazy, and then the same with the left. I think the left might do it a little bit worse. I'll be honest with you, but we got to be fair on both sides. So I just wanted to talk about this real quick, guys. We've got other subjects we're going to get to tonight, or this morning, I guess, because it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Um, guys, I had to give you my opinion on this because I think this person was unalived unnecessarily. And I think everything that happened in this situation was preventable. And I think that a mother and a brother are grieving over a situation that absolutely did not have to happen. So we're going to keep it moving, guys. On to the next subject. And if you guys want to let's see, how long have we even been talking about this? Not very long. 10 minutes. We've been talking about it for 10 minutes. If anybody wants to, say what they think in the comments. I'm looking at it real quick. Otherwise, we're just going to move on to the next subject. This whole situation. I don't know how many times I have to say it. It's like every other situation that we see on Twitter and on social media that gets exploded into this huge thing that it's not. It's turning into a race war. It's turning into people genuinely saying fucked up, cruel, mean shit to each other. I saw somebody on Facebook calling for civil war. It's absolutely insane, and I feel like I have a responsibility to come on here and talk to you guys because that is not the majority of the world, okay? And I want you to know that. Everybody listening right now, that is not the majority of the world. The majority of the world sees this for what it is. It's a young man who was unalived at the hands of somebody who was misguided and thrown through society, probably didn't care about school, probably didn't care about a lot of things. And this is what he'll be known for the rest of his life. This is what his life amounted to. And he'll never get it back. He'll never get it back. And it's been going on for a long time. And I don't know when it's going to stop because, and I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are going to have a problem with this. Culture is part of the problem. When you have songs that talk about violence and talk about, like I said, Sexy Red. I can't stand Sexy Red. Cardi B, she was a big, one of her things was the way she got famous was by, I don't know what the word, rugging men and stealing their money when they're asleep. That's how she got famous. That's how she got money. And yet we put her at the forefront of our, cultural music. We put her at the forefront for a long time. So I think this is just something that we need to be aware of, something that you're going to see a lot of on the internet, and you need to remember, don't lose your shit, okay? Because a lot of the times, people that are saying stuff that goes against what everybody else is saying, they don't actually believe that, right? They don't actually think anything that they're saying. They're just saying it because they're hoping to upset you, because internally they are upset. They can't deal with the fact that they know what to be true is true, and instead of, going out and doing their own research and coming to their own conclusions on things, they're just going to get upset under a troll account and send you troll messages knowing that you're not going to be able to do anything about it, and it's going to frustrate you. And you can't let that happen. You're going to see this all over Twitter, all over Instagram, probably mostly Twitter, and Instagram, on Google. It's going to be everywhere for a while. And the biggest thing that you're going to see is trolls saying that Anthony was a victim. And we all know he was not in this situation. So I see we got more people coming in here. So anyway, let me start from the beginnings so everybody who's in here knows where I stand on this. What I just did was I went over all of the information that the lawyers are getting and are presenting to the judge, okay? And this information that we have found out is a witness says Metcalf was under his school's tent when Anthony approached. Metcalf told Anthony to leave. Anthony grabbed his bag and warned, "Touch me and see what happens." Okay, no one knew Anthony had a weapon. And I don't like the way they word this. It says Anthony grabbed his bag. They should have said Anthony grabbed Anthony's bag or Anthony grabbed Metcalf's bag, because the first time I read this, I interpreted it as Anthony grabbed his own bag. However, no, that's not what it means. Anthony grabbed Metcalf's bag and warned, "Touch me and see what happens." No one knew Anthony had a weapon. One witness says Metcalf touched Anthony. Another says he grabbed him. Anthony immediately pulled a knife from his backpack and unalived Metcalf in the chest and fled the scene. So, look, all I'm going to say is Anthony's not a victim. And I think these two individuals knew each other before this happened, because why would Anthony walk up to what is it called, the school's tent? Why would he walk under another school's tent at a track meet if he doesn't either know the people under the tent or just have a reason to go under the tent? You're not just going to go under random people's tents at a track meet, okay? If you've ever been to a track meet, you would know that. So I think there was motivation here. We don't know what the motivation was. There's some people that are saying that there was girlfriend talk in the back, and that's part of what spurred this whole thing on. But I just needed to give you guys the facts, and I need you guys to understand, do not engage with the trolls online, okay? Because there's going to be a lot, and they're going to come after you hard, okay? Because they know they're behind a sock account with no profile picture, with no identifying factors, that they can say whatever they want. Nobody's going to hold them responsible, which, America, free speech, whatever. But people know what they're doing when they troll, and they understand the harm that they're doing, and they don't care because to them it's funny or something. Can't really explain it. Roast beef demolisher. Even if he did know someone, why escalate immediately? No, I agree 100%. And that's actually one of the things that I talked about a minute ago was if you want to say Anthony's a victim, you could say he's a victim to the people that are around him and to the people that misled him and to the people that gave him bad advice and said, "Hey, if somebody disrespects you, this is what you do. Hey, if somebody talks bad, this is what you do. If somebody talks crazy, this is what you do." That's not what you do. If you, and especially, and I don't understand why this isn't more of a why this thought process doesn't get passed down more often, okay? If you become a father, you cannot lash out at people that you disagree with. You can't lash out at somebody who calls your family names, because you have to understand, if you do something to that person and you go to jail and you're not there to protect your family, that person just won. They just got you out of the picture. Now your family is, free pickings. So this is something that I need people to understand. When you're a father, these are things that you have to learn. Why don't we teach this to the younger generation? Why don't we teach them, look, you're going to have people who press you. You're going to have people who get in your face. And you have to understand when the right time to stand on your own 2 feet is. And it's not going to be every time. Sometimes you're going to feel a little embarrassed because they're going to call you names, or there's going to be a lot of them. Who cares? Who cares? As long as they're not coming after you and trying to do you harm and physically assault you, who cares? He had a knife for some reason on him that day. That's a good question too. Why did he have a knife at the track meet? And that's another thing that I'm saying. Okay, I think these two kids knew each other, because what motivation did he have? Why would you go with a knife in your backpack to another person's tent? Now, I'm not saying that's calling him guilty. What I'm saying is why. Like, they need to ask him that question in court. Now, I've got a feeling that they're going to say, well, he's a young black man and he needs to feel protected and he can't have a gun because he's okay. That's bullshit, but whatever. If you want to have that argument, whatever. But in my counter argument would be, Apparently, both of these kids came from well-to-do families, meaning they had decent paying jobs. Okay, they weren't in the hood. They weren't around. They were in a rural community. Okay, where people not necessarily rural. That's more like countryside. They were in like a suburban area. There we go. That's a better description. Thank you, Jeff, for the follow. So it just doesn't make sense to me. And if somebody wants to say he's a victim of the people who didn't have his back. He's a victim of the people who told him this is what you do when somebody disrespects you, and instead of being a man and understanding your worth and your pride, you allow somebody to get inside your head and make you feel less than you actually are. And to me, that's the ultimate lesson to any young person who wants to feel vindicated, who wants to feel like they did the right thing, even if it's a situation like this where somebody's coming up to them, disrespecting them. Look, Metcalf had no idea what was in his backpack. Now, if you asked Metcalf now, obviously he's not alive anymore. If you asked Metcalf today if he was still alive, you made a good decision by not arguing with him. And by the way, he had a knife in his backpack. And if you would have kept arguing with him and escalated, he would have unalived you. Do you feel like you made the right decision? He would say yes. But we have these young men who are so testosterone fueled, so they're playing sports, they're doing stuff. Especially if they play football, they're hitting people. If you're running track and field, you're running hard, your adrenaline's going. It's another case of young men who are being led astray and who are not being whether it's a father figure, whether it's older brother, whether it's somebody in the community, people, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. That's why I'm talking to you guys, because I don't know how many of you are, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. I don't know what the age of you all are. Okay. But there needs to be more people on the internet advocating for, I hate to say this, peace instead of violence, because it sounds like you're taking kindness for weakness, but it's not. Okay, we're taking a step back and realizing this is the alternative. Yeah, sometimes somebody's going to say something to you that you're not going to like, and you're going to feel disrespected, and they're going to say, "Oh yeah, go home to mama's crib, go cry to mama." Okay, I'll go cry to mama, whatever. As long as I'm alive by the end of the night, I'm fine. As long as my family's fine, I'm good. And me fighting you isn't going to prove anything. Either one of us ends up unalived, or we both end up in jail, right? Or one ends up unalived, and then the other ends up in jail. So, we've got to teach this. And now I'm kind of a young man, right? I'm 26, gonna turn 27 soon. I'm still sort of a young man, but I still feel like there are people even my age who have this mentality that the moment somebody disrespects you, oh, you got to show them what a real man you are. Why? What are you proving to who? Yourself? It's and we're going to get off of this subject soon. Ego got the best of both kids. Social media amplifies it. I agree. And that's another thing. That's why I'm talking to you right now, because social media does amplify it. And you do have the trolls, and you do have the people who don't care. Like I said earlier, I saw somebody on Facebook earlier that I'm friends with calling for civil war. It's like, you don't realize if you truly are advocating for that, once that cat is out of the bag, you will not put that cat back in the bag. It is over, okay? Everything that we know will be over, okay? And not only that, what do you think China's going to do? What do you think China's doing right now, okay? We've got somebody in office right now, and I'm not going to get super political on this. We've got somebody in office right now who is trying to reverse our debt. Because every year we go $1 to $2 billion more into debt. And you got assholes focusing on the fucking stock market instead of realizing that it cannot continue. And China is sitting back with their hands in their pocket going, yeah, our economy's doing a little worse, but we don't care. Let's just wait out the Americans. They're gonna get rid of themselves. They are arguing. They can't agree on anything. They're worried about the color of their skin over the jobs that they're doing. And they're laughing. And it's pretty sad because we were the world power 40 years ago. We were, absolutely. Us and Russia. China was in the mix, but it was us and Russia. And then you get NAFTA. And then you get imports, 2.6% of entire GDP, mostly soybeans, right? So just getting back onto this, you have people in social media who take narratives and they don't make them honest. They make them dishonest. They spin them to make them as least honest as they can and to fit whatever narrative they have, simply to upset you. And most of the time it does work. I hate to say it, most of the time it does work on a lot of people. So anyway, we're going to get off of this subject. And I want to go ahead and talk about this subject because we're going to get off of this one. And my keyboard isn't working. There we go. All right, let me type in her name. Selena Maria Chandler Scott. Okay. So the deal with this woman is, let's see if we can find. Okay, well, none of this is what I'm looking for. Okay, all right. Well, I can't seem to find anything on her. Look it up on East Idaho News page. I don't know what that is. I'll tell you what. I'll just look it up on Google. Selena Maria. Oh, come on, keyboard. All right, guys. All right, we're just gonna talk about it. So, Selena Maria is somebody who she had an abortion. No, not an abortion. She had a miscarriage. And when she had the miscarriage, she was arrested. And the reason that she was arrested was because of a law that's in Georgia. This is where this happened. It is the Pro-Life / Life Act heartbeat law. And what it is any embryo or fetus that is in a mother's womb is, oh, okay, yeah, I can have that up. That's no big deal. Is after 6 weeks, any embryo or fetus is granted personhood, meaning they're a person. So this woman had a miscarriage, and she essentially had to discard it in the toilet. And it was brutal, and it was bad for her. And she was arrested. Now, obviously, I think we can all agree she shouldn't have been arrested for a miscarriage. But I do think it's interesting to talk about this because, matter of fact, I want to bring this up so that way people can actually understand what I'm talking about when they come up here. Maria Chandler Scott. Okay. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. All right. So, all right. This is what we're talking about. I'm glad this is a lot more useful than Twitter. So, she was released and the charges were dropped. But this opens up the door because there are currently GOP legislators in Georgia who want to actually further this law. They actually want to make it more strict to where essentially any abortion is illegal. And I'm not for abortion, but we also have to understand ectopic pregnancies, okay, and pregnancies where the fetus or the mother won't survive. So that's a different subject. Now, miscarriages are a little bit different, right? Because with a miscarriage, it's not like you intentionally did anything to harm your baby, right? It is nature taking its course, and under this law, she was arrested. Now, she was released, and the right things happened, okay? But I think it's interesting because a lot of people would say, well, miscarriages aren't that common, right? No, they are. They're a lot more common than you would think. About 30% of all pregnancies turn into miscarriages, and I actually know people personally who had miscarriages. Right, so this is not, I wouldn't say close to home, but a little bit. It's kind of close to home, and the fact that a woman was arrested for she put her child in the dumpster. Well, the child, it was a I keep wanting to say abortion. It's not abortion. Miscarriage. It was a miscarriage. The child wasn't alive, and as far as I remember, it was the toilet. I mean, it's not that big of a difference, right? But um, look, my response to that, KM, would be if you're a woman who is pregnant and you end up in this pool of people who who have a miscarriage. I don't know why I keep forgetting the word. You're kind of terrified, right? Because your baby just got unalived inside of you. You're probably freaking out because you had no idea this was going to happen. Now, I'm not going to say she did the right thing in either putting it in the dumpster or the toilet, right? But apparently, now I looked this up. That's proper procedure, right? When you have a miscarriage at home, that's typically what happens. It comes out in blood and small tissue, and you rest, and that's it. That's all you can do. I don't think she should be arrested for that. I don't. Now people might disagree with me with me on that, and that's fine. That's, we're in America, so that's good. But just my personal opinion, I think her getting arrested was not something that's going to make Georgia any better, right? Arresting a woman for a miscarriage is something that she can't control. It's pretty wild if you ask me. Now, and I'm a Republican, right? And I voted for Trump. But and I'll tell you, I don't think Trump would support something like this. I don't. But Georgia apparently did, and and what bothers me most about the situation is apparently some of these GOP senators and congressmen are trying to double down on this and say, well, the reason that it actually happened like this is because of this law and we're protecting this. Look, I get that. But if we're going to talk about people getting arrested for a miscarriage, that you have no control over, none whatsoever. And the proper procedure when you have one is go to the bathroom, and you're going to have to use the bathroom more than often, and you're going to have to take a lot of rest. And by the way, here's your arrest warrant. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make sense to me. And I would I would have a hard time agreeing with anybody who would say differently. I just would. And not to say that you're a bad person if you disagree with me or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think there's things that we don't understand about the situation that we as men are maybe trying to put onto the situation that we ourselves don't understand, right? So that's just how I feel about it. I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but I haven't heard anybody talking about this. So I really wanted to get it out there. And just talk about it for a minute from a Republican side, because I think a lot of people, they see miscarriage and abortion and immediately their red flags go up and they're like, no, 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 and this is why, and this is why. But they don't actually understand what's going on. Like 30% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. And now you could say some miscarriages happen. You could say some miscarriages, whether it be alcohol, smoking, stuff like that. Yeah, like you can't do that while you're pregnant, obviously, and that's going to contribute to more likely having a miscarriage. But that doesn't mean that all miscarriages are like that. I would say most aren't. All right, we're going to move on to, this is kind of the last subject that we've got for today. What am I talking about? Well, what are you confused about? I'm not sure what you're confused about. I said that 30% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage, and some of those are from people drinking alcohol or smoking, but the majority are not. I did read up. Why would I do a live show if I didn't read up on it? Anyway, so we're going to move on to Trump tariffs, because that's a lot more interesting of a thing. This is just sad to me. But I think the Trump tariffs are a much more interesting topic. So let's go here. Let's pull up. There we go. All right. So the United States and Argentina have become the first zero tariff countries. President Trump and Malay will sign the first international trade agreement free of tariffs for both Americans and Argentine products. Now, me personally, I don't know. I think they manufacture a lot of like beef and stuff like that. I don't necessarily know what we get from Argentina. I don't know what we import from Argentina. But this is good. And I think this shows that Trump is willing to work with foreign leaders. One of the biggest criticisms of Trump is he doesn't know how to respond or interact with foreign leaders, or that he only likes to interact with dictators. Well, here's proof that that's not true. And I got to say, the people that are coming down on Trump for his tariffs, most of the time don't know what the hell they're talking about, because they spend so much time looking at the stock market. But what they don't understand is that, well, they do and they choose not to pay attention to it, is that every year we go 1.2 trillion, or not trillion, $1.2 billion into debt every year. And it's continued like that, and it's going to continue like that until we change something. So, and the golf gym, it's kind of funny. I talked about trolls like you earlier, but I'm not going to kick you out. You can hang out in my chat, bro. You can just make yourself a little comfortable in there. But to me, this whole Trump tariff situation is being blown out of proportion, because we all know tariffs are implemented against the U.S., and they have been for a long time on a number of different things. Now, and when you look at Canada, is actually the funniest situation to me, because all we said to Canada was, hey, we're going to do reciprocal tariffs. All those tariffs that you got on us, yeah, we're going to go ahead and throw some back on you, and do what you want about that. And they got hostile. They responded with shutting off fucking power to 1.5 trillion Americans that are on the northern border. That's not friendly or neighborly at all. And I think it kind of exposed Canada, because now Canada's looking around like, oh shit, we just pissed off the one guy that pays our fucking bills. We just pissed off the guy that we were screwing for so long, and when he finally got wise to it, we got angry. So I think Canada's going to have a rough. They've been doing a little bit rough in Canada, especially with that. I think the housing crisis is worse in Canada than it is here. I think it's going to get worse. I think it's going to continue getting worse for Canada. The biggest thing that we import is lumber from Canada. And that's a big one. Don't get me wrong, that's a big one. Dude literally made the trade agreement. Canada will be fine. China will get trade partner. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about in his show, and then drop the tariffs. So let me ask you guys, why do you think that tariffs against the United States are a good thing, but when the United States implements reciprocal tariffs, it's bad. It's no good. We're not allowed to do that. We're just going to upset everybody, and we're not allowed to do that. We just have to keep getting fucked on a national scale and continue this constant rigmarole of get screwed, don't make any infrastructure here, don't build anything here, don't have companies come here, continue to push the NAFTA agreement, which is only going to exacerbate the problem further and further. And it's funny, anytime I bring up the NAFTA agreement, nobody has anything to say about that, ever. And I don't think most people know about the NAFTA agreement. But doesn't really matter to me. The ultimate thing that we have to look at here is our economy has to make a big change. And people want to say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing because he's implementing tariffs. No, he knows exactly what he's doing because he's implementing tariffs. Do you guys know that the entire GDP, 2.6% of our entire GDP last year, entirety, was exports? Did you know that? The thing is, right, exactly, we are the consumer. Tariffs will hurt those imposing them on the U.S., right, we are the consumer. And that's part of why tariffs don't matter as much to us. We don't send anything. We send soybeans. That's the majority of our exports, and it's mostly to China. Okay, soybeans. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. If we're going to have this conversation, we also need to talk about the farmers and the soybean farmers. I think those people should get a government stipend. I think those people should be taken care of for the time that we're dealing with these tariffs, because those are the people that are most affected. When China's not buying their soybeans, nobody's buying their soybeans unless it's local, and the Chinese market is too big to replicate. Okay, you're not going to find anything local that replicates the Chinese market. And what Trump is doing is essentially saying, look, guys, we don't export anything, so we're going to put tariffs on you guys, reciprocal tariffs, right? Tariffs that were already in place on us. We're just going to do the same thing that you guys are doing to us. And in the long run, you're going to feel it a whole lot more than we will. And you already saw the UK lost their mind. France lost their mind. Also, notice nobody said anything about NAFTA. The moment I bring up NAFTA, nobody says anything. Jermaine. See, this guy don't know what he's talking about. We export more stuff. Oh my God. Anyway, sorry everybody watching. That just hurt my brain. So I agree with what Trump is doing. I think the tariffs are a good thing. I think the tariffs prove that the United States aren't going to sit back and be the punching bag of the world anymore. And if you notice, NATO, right? Nobody wants to talk about NATO anymore. It's probably because you guys realized that we were getting screwed on NATO too, right? We were paying 80% of all funds that went into NATO were coming out of us. All the countries that were getting support, 80% was coming from us. And Trump said, no, we're not doing that shit no more. And he said, no, Ukraine, we're not paying you no money no more. And you know what Zelensky said? He told the UK and, who was it? Poland, and I don't remember the other country. I believe it was Switzerland, but don't hold me to that. He said, we don't have money to send, so we're going to send troops. And he said the same thing to the United States. He's not afraid to send our sons and daughters to go fight on his behalf. He's not, and he doesn't care. So honestly, I support, as far as the tariffs and not funding Zelensky and putting a foot down and making sure that people understand we're not going to pay for your bills anymore. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. People are starting to realize, like, oh, the United States actually has something. They're a lot more special than the world gives them credit for. And we're a melting pot. And another thing that gets me is people will say Republicans don't support immigration. We absolutely support immigration. We support legal immigration. What we don't support is people coming into the country not being checked, not knowing anything about them. People who got turned away multiple times for violent crimes, sometimes unaliving people, and walking right back into the country. So that's what we're against. We're not against immigration. And I'm also against the United States paying a very large percent of tariffs and other countries' bills simply because they don't want to or they can't. That's not our problem. If you can't afford the things that you're doing in your country, it's probably because you've got either too many taxes or too many government programs that you're trying to assist people with, or like take for instance, Canada, the healthcare, right? People want to talk about how great the healthcare is in Canada, and then you wait a year and a half to go see a doctor because you have a brain tumor. And yes, this happens. So we don't pay tariffs in other countries. We pay our own tariffs. I have no credibility. Okay, so if you look at not only tariffs that we were paying before Trump did all this, which this is very easily accessible information, you would see that, yes, we are paying other people's tariffs, and you would see that, yes, we are paying other people's bills, and we have been for a long time. And now that Trump is standing up for America, people are all pissed off. And it doesn't really make sense to me, because at the end of the day, he's working for your own self-interest. You guys realize we spend 1 to 2 billion in deficit every year, right? Every year. And it's going to keep going until we make things here. And that's the whole point of the tariff and the gold card that he announced, right? And, we can sit here and have debates on whether what Trump is doing is working or not. We can debate all that all day. But one thing we all agree is We can't keep going the way that we've been going. We can't. We're going to fail. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. China is sitting back looking at the hostile relations between everybody in the U.S., everybody focused on color, money, and I mean, Trump won the popular vote, so I'm not going to say everybody's worried about Trump, but essentially how the tariffs are going to impact the country, immigration, we're all split up. They would have by now. Anyways, they're sitting back and waiting, and they have been for probably since Trump's first term, and they've noticed the very large shift in America where we can't agree on very basic things. Like we can't whatever we're doing cannot continue. Whether you agree with what Trump is doing or not, it can't continue. Make microphones more expensive. This dude has 9th grade level takes. You know, George, you throw a lot of insults, but you haven't made any point that actually makes any sense at all. And I'm actually live on multiple different platforms if you want to make yourself known and talk to me. And we'll have a conversation. But you got to make a point instead of just insulting me, because I'm not going to respond to that. So essentially, and this all goes back to NAFTA, right? All of this goes back to NAFTA. And that's what started this. Okay, we made it easier for other countries to bring in exported goods, right? Like, let's see, Ford dealership went to Mexico. Freightliner developed in Mexico. You know how many Freightliners get sold in America? I work for a company that buys Freightliners every 2 years. A lot of them. Okay, they're all made in Mexico, and I'll also tell you, 90% of them come with not enough oil in the motor, and you got to put oil in the motor the moment you get it. You know why? Because they don't fill it up. Because it's cheaper that way, right? That's what that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make to you guys. If you want to say, I don't have proof, what don't I have proof of? That the trucks don't have oil? You want me to take a picture of a Freightliner that didn't have oil in it and send it to you? Okay, whatever. I can do that. I'll take a picture and then I'll put it up on the background on the next live stream. But anyway, getting back to NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, in case anybody doesn't know what that is, signed by Bill Clinton, essentially made it a lot cheaper for these companies that were American companies to go to different countries and import their goods. Okay. So we've been kind of going on for, oh wow, we've almost been going for an hour. That's pretty interesting. Didn't feel like it. So yeah, this is mostly the show today. Man, the internet's going crazy. People are going crazy. They're losing their minds. Everybody's losing their minds right now on social media. And I just wanted to get on here with you guys and talk some sense, and just give you facts. Because honestly, I don't have a political. I guess you could say I have a political bias in the fact that I voted for Trump, but I only voted for Trump because I felt like he was going to do the best job out of all of the candidates that we had. And up to this point, with the economy, I would say that he's doing good. So anyway, we're going to get out of here, you guys. We're going to do a gaming live stream over on Twitch. So probably an hour from now, if you guys want to check that out. I hope everybody had a good time that was here. We're going to get out of here, though.